you said this last round of talks was Iran's last chance before decapitation. So what now? What comes next?
You'll find out.
Are you still, are massive escalation, is that still on the table?
Well, we have that, certainly that ability if we want to do that. Yeah, you'll find out.
You said you're low-keying it with them, so you're semi-negotiating. What exactly does that mean?
Well, they asked for reparations, you might say, or they asked for money for the damage that we've done. And I said, that's a good idea. Well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period. Whether you go SS Cole or whether you go all of the people that were so badly hurt, so badly wounded or killed, many thousands of people, and maybe damages for the 52,000 protesters over the last 4 months that were killed in Iran. We think their family should get damages for killing their person or their child or mother, father that were protesting. It's at least, it was 52,000 a month and a half ago. So now what is it? So if there's damages to be paid, I think Iran should pay those damages.
President Trump from the Oval Office speaking on the current state of affairs with Iran. And, you know, there's a story that just was reported here within the last maybe 24 hours at Mainstream. And there's like a whole ruse. Maybe this happens all the time, but we just don't always know about it. Where President Trump, when he was in Turkey, there was the Air Force One, you know, the Qatar plane, and then there was the old Air Force One that came to pick him up, and then they went to like England or something like that. But it turns out that throughout that entire process, they relocated Donald Trump onto a different, smaller plane because the threat level against his life is so high from Iran right now. I mean, when you think about the context of this Iranian conflict, and you know that the president has already been shot in the head, grazing his ear at Butler, there's a lot at stake here for this president, and he does seem to have the resolve to continue to, you know, push through that goal of denuclearization of Iran, but there's a lot of pressure on this man. Let's get to our guest, retired Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano, senior counselor to Heritage President Kevin Roberts, and E.W. Richardson Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Welcome back to the show, Jim. It's good to have you with us.
Hey, it's great to be with you. I'm sorry, I just can't get this image out of my head of Iran is like this little mouse, and you know when the cat has the mouse cornered and it just plays with it until the poor thing dies. I just feel like that's the world that we're living in.
Well, you know, I think that is a huge part of it, because every time the president is asked about Iran, he articulates their economy, their ability to sell oil, the decimation of the leaders that they've had, and the structures, and the Navy and the military. I mean, we've done quite some damage to Iran at this point.
Well, look, everybody keeps talking about the midterms. Look, it's very clear that the president has discounted the midterms, which is actually what you're supposed to do. You never give your adversary an advantage, and so you don't fight wars by a calendar. And if you say, well, this thing's got to be wrapped by November, well, then you're just giving something to the enemy. And Trump says, no, that's just, I don't care what people say. He's not going to fight the war by a calendar. His calendar, he has 2.5 years. So think about this. If Iran wants to do this for 2.5 more years, who do you think is still going to be left standing? And it's not going to be the IRGC guys. So I think the president's in a great shape. I think his strategy's right. I think his instincts are right. And, you know, people say, well, I'm confused. I don't understand what the strategy is. Well, you know who else is confused? The Iranians. They don't know what the hell's going on either. So all we've learned by all these people who are confused is that, you know, they're bemused and befuddled. But that's not a comment on Trump's strategy. It's not a comment that he's outsmarted both the critics and the enemies.
You know, your commendation of his willingness to stick to the plan and not get sidetracked with an election reminds me of a prior president who told another world leader, I'd have more flexibility after the election. You know, I think that is that's
the contrast, right?
That's a huge contrast, isn't it? And
look, I mean, this is what presidents are supposed to do. And people, which is what Truman did. Of course, he didn't get elected. It was what, other presidents had done. But this is also what Lincoln did. This is what George Washington, well, he wasn't president, but what Ronald Reagan did. So you stick to your resolve if you have a strategy that will work, will deliver on the aims of the American people, and is at a responsible cost. And Donald Trump has checked all three of those boxes. So maybe everybody else wants this thing to be over. I mean, everybody acts like this is a Netflix show that just went on like one season too long. This is not done. The enemy gets a vote, right? They don't get a vote of where they win. They've already lost. The Iranians have lost. They've lost everything that makes them a threat. But they get a vote on when the war ends, and they're voting. They're voting like some guy stuffing ballots in Maricopa County. I mean, which is fine. And actually, if you look at what Trump has just said, he said, "Look, fine, okay. When you guys are ready to just say I quit, call me. And in the meantime, your economy is going to find a new bottom. And you know what? I might strike you again. So if you want to play stupid games, you will definitely win very stupid prizes."
Jim Carafano speaking with us right now with the Heritage Foundation. What do you make of reports, very gleeful on some of the opposition media towards the president and this administration, but the reports of missile depletion from this war?
Well, it's a good reminder that, one, Joe Biden gave a ton of stuff away, and two, in the Obama years and the Biden years, we didn't buy anything to fill out these arsenals. So being gleeful is just a reminder of what a horrible steward of defense resources the left has always been. That's what it's a reminder of. And the other thing is I don't know what you're gleeful for, because that stuff's to defend us.
Right.
And the reality is what this war has proven is that we really need to build very, very robust arsenals. And we're going to do that. And when you look at the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians, they get the joke. They're not going to be able to deplete American munitions faster than we can replace them. So I actually think this is good. I don't say it's good news, but our arsenals were always inadequate. They've been inadequate for 20 years. And thank God if there is one upside to this war, I don't like wars that people die. It's terrible. But one of the upsides here is we are finally taking seriously our responsibility to have an industrial base that is equal to our defense needs.
Jim Carafano speaking with us right now. I want to get your thoughts on, as if I could ask you to crawl into the mind of President Donald Trump, but this man has an ongoing and very serious threat on his life. Iran wants him dead. They're not shy about that at all. And there's this report out now about how President Trump was using a catering truck as a decoy to get on a different plane to get out of Turkey. What is it like to be the president, to have to make these decisions to go all the way into the full denuclearization of Iran, knowing that with every move he makes, the threat on his life increases?
Well, I think in some ways it's an affirmation. There's a reason why they want him dead. And for the people that said this is an unnecessary war, Iran wasn't a threat to that, what's the problem here is first of all, it's not the first time they've tried to take a hit out on Donald Trump or other people or other American presidents. This is a reminder. You cannot be serious that these guys are not like really, truly evil. I mean, they just tried to kill the president of the United States. I mean, what do you need to wake up here? And the thought that this is not a irresponsible, reckless regime that is at war with the United States. So to try to say that somehow we just, picked a fight with Iran, they were just sitting there in a street corner and, we came up and picked for that's just nonsense. And this was a very strong reminder of that. And if anything, I think for the president, I was right? They would not be trying to kill me if they didn't really, in their heart of hearts, believe that I am the guy that's standing between them and getting a nuclear weapon.
Do you feel as though the midterms, I mean, he obviously knows that they're coming 84 days from today. Gas prices are affected by what's going on with this conflict. How is it responsible for the president to walk and chew gum at the same time, to campaign and to govern at the same time? Because it is a huge challenge, and a lot of presidents would just campaign.
Well, you have to do that. You have to do both. And I think there's a lot to unpack in the midterm elections, but I don't think the war is going to significantly impact Americans really only focus on conflicts and war when it feels like it's existential, like the Korean War and World War II. Otherwise, they don't. Look, do we have mass demonstrations in the street against the war? Are there? No. I mean, it hardly makes a ripple. And this is kind of, I don't want to say it's an inside the Beltway issue, but we're not even voting for the president. We're voting for congressmen and senators and everything else. And I think this is far down the list. And is it tangentially associated with prices in the economy? Yeah, probably, but I think it's just one of many issues. And when people saying, "Well, it's the economy," and this so much reminds me of the 2022 midterms under Biden, when the economy was doing horrible, and Republicans thought they were going to clean up on the midterm, and nothing happened. And the reason nothing happened is Republicans didn't. It's not enough to say, "I don't like what my guy's doing." You have to give me a reason to vote for the other guy. And Republicans really didn't bring anything to the table other than we'll be different than Biden. Democrats are not bringing anything to the table. We can say, "I don't like the economy," but they're not offering a way to fix the economy. They just say, "We hate Donald Trump." And the idea we are getting for the Democrats are nonsense things that aren't going to impact the economy. So I just don't see the war being a top tier issue in what happens in the midterms. And I don't even see the midterms being that dramatically relevant. And I mean, if the Iranians are banking on the midterms stopping Donald Trump, they're out of their freaking minds. Because look, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying what's in the president's head and heart. In his mind is he's got 2.5 years to mess with the Iranians. That's his timeline. And so if they're ready to do this for 2.5 more years, like, bring it on, dude. Because this isn't, somehow we're all going to fold in November, or somebody magically a new Congress is going to come in and change things and make things better for the Iranians. It's just never going to happen.
We're speaking with Jim Carafano. I don't know where you were on September 11th, 2001, but we do have a Democrat candidate for Senate in Michigan who's campaigned with Hassan Piker. And just even the fact that the words would be uttered in an American election environment about how America deserved 9/11 I didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime, but maybe I'm naive in that regard. What is your reaction to the current climate of candidates? I know you're not in politics, you're into policy, but if these people get elected and are in our government, they're going to affect policy.
Yeah, I think the question is why do people think this is okay? And it's not because organically they've decided, I love Hamas, Hezbollah, 9/11. It's because the party took them there. If you remember, after 9/11, and the Pelosi regained political power in the Congress by arguing, I'm going to be tougher on national security and tougher on terrorists than the Bush administration. I mean, she actually pushed through the 9/11 Act, which was to, in her words, enact all the findings in the 9/11 Commission. So the Democratic Party, they wanted to secure the border. They wanted all kinds of things. So what's changed? Well, it's the politics of the party that has changed. The party has accepted these Yahoo. The party has said anything that's anti-Trump is fine. So it's not like people woke up one morning and say, it's a good idea for me to be a socialist or a communist or to love Hamas or, it's the people that they trust told them that was okay. And that's why we are where we are. And I think they're going to find out that, they put their faith and trust in the wrong political leaders.
Do you think America reacts accordingly? Do you think America still has that 9/12 feeling?
I think that the DSA agenda that is not going to play in this country. Even though which is may seem like an unbelievable thought, it's sanctioned by a major political party in the United States. The DSA agenda is not going to play. And the reason why we are where we are is that we are fighting over the political center of this country, and the two sides have moved in the different directions. And the left has essentially decided that they're going to jump off the cliff. And so the only way you get political power is you're so not the other guy. Well, unfortunately for them, being so not the other guy has become being so anti-American. And I just don't think that's going to. And remember, we've seen this in Europe, where in Europe, eventually the left got to the point where they're anti their country. They're so like, we're into EU, we're into all the globalism, we're into everything else, that we're against Poland, we're against Romania, we're against the Czech Republic, and we're against Italy. And what's happening is people are voting in the opposite direction. If there were elections in Spain today, do you think that government would still be in power? Because it's actually against Spain. It would be voted out. And so this is when you're being the opposite of the other guy, being winds up being against your own country. I just don't think that works.
I hope so. I hope you're right. And I know that you've been calling shots on this show for quite some time, and you rarely miss. Jim Carafano, thanks for being with us again today. As always, we love having you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye. Jim Carafano, retired lieutenant colonel, Heritage